And we begin now the book of Judges, chapter 1. Now after the death of Joshua, the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, Who shall go up first for us against the Canaanites to fight against them? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have delivered the land into his hand. And Judah said to Simeon his brother, Come up with me into my lot, so that we may fight against the Canaanites. And I likewise will go with you into your lot. And so Simeon went with him, and Judah went up, and the Lord delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand. And they killed 10,000 men of them in Bezek. And they found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek, and they fought against him, and they killed the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And Adoni-Bezek fled. And they ran after him and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and his big toes. And Adoni-Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have gathered under my table. As I have done, so God has requited me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. Now the children of Judah had fought against Jerusalem, and had taken it, and struck it with the edge of the sword, and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Judah went down to fight against the Canaanites who lived in the mountains, and in the south and in the valley, and Judah went against the Canaanites who lived in Hebron. And now the name of Hebron before was Kirjath-Arba. And they killed Sheshai, and Ahiman, and Talmai. And from where he went against those who lived in Deber, and the name of Deber before was Kirjath-Sepher. And Caleb said, He who strikes Kirjath-Sepher and takes it, I will give Aksah my daughter to him for a wife. And Othniel, the son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz, took it, and he gave him Aksah his daughter for a wife. And when she came, she moved him to ask for a field from her father. And she dismounted from her ass, and Caleb said to her, What do you desire? And she said to him, Give me a blessing, for you have given me a southland. Give me a spring of water. And Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. And the children of Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went up out of the city of palm trees, and the children of Judah into the wilderness of Judah, which is in the south of Arad, and they went and lived amongst the people. And Judah went with Simeon his brother, and they killed the Canaanites who lived in Zephath, and completely destroyed it. And the name of the city was called Hormah. Also Judah took Gaza with its borders, and Ashkelon with its border, and Ekron with its border. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drove out those who lived in the mountain, but he could not drive out those who lived in the valley, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moses said, and he drove out the 3 sons of Anak from there. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who lived in Jerusalem, but the Jebusites live with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. And the house of Joseph also went up against Bethel, and the Lord was with them. And the house of Joseph sent a spy out to Bethel. Now the name of the city before was Luz. And the spies saw a man come forth out of the city, and he said to him, We pray you, show us the gate into the city, and we will show you mercy. And when he showed him the gate into the city, they struck the city with the edge of the sword, but they let the man and all his family go. And the man went into the land of the Hittites, and built a city, and called the name of it Luz, which is the name of it until this day. Neither did Manasseh drive out those who lived in Beth Shean and its towns, nor Tanakh and its towns, nor those who lived in Dor and its towns, nor those who lived in Ibleam and its towns, nor those who lived in Megiddo and its towns. But the Canaanites desired to stay in the land. And it came to pass, when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites to tribute, and did not completely drive them out. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer, but the Canaanites lived in Gezer amongst them. Neither did Zebulun drive out those who lived in Kitron, nor those who lived in Naholol, but the Canaanites lived amongst them, and became tributaries. Neither did Asher drive out those who lived in Akko, nor Zidon, nor of Alab, nor of Achzib, nor of Helbah, nor of Aphek, nor of Rehob. But the Asherites lived amongst the Canaanites, those who lived in the land, for they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out those who lived in Beth-shemesh, nor those who lived in Beth-anath, but lived amongst the Canaanites, those who lived in the land. Nevertheless, those who lived in Beth-shemesh and Beth-anath became tributaries. And the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountains, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. But the Amorites desired to stay in Mount Heres, in Aijalon, and in Shaalbim. Yet the hand of the house of Joseph won out, so that they became tributaries. And the border of the Amorites was from the going up to Akrabim, from the rock and upward. We're reading from the book of Judges. We begin reading now chapter 2. And an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim, and said, I made you go out of Egypt, and have brought you into the land which I swore unto your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and ye shall make no treaty with those who live in this land. You shall throw down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? Therefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be thorns in your sides, and their God shall be a snare to you. And when the angel of the Lord spoke these words to all the children of Israel, the people lifted up their voices and wept, and they called the name of that place Bochim, and they sacrificed there unto the Lord. And when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel left each man to his inheritance to possess the land. And the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath-Heres, in the mount of Ephraim, on the north side of the hill Gaash. And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord, nor even the works which he had done for Israel. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim. And they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and they followed other gods, the gods of the people who were around them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger. And they forsook the Lord, and served Baal and Ashtaroth. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of spoilers, who spoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before their enemies. Wherever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for evil, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them, and they were greatly distressed. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who spoiled them, and yet they would not listen to their judges. But they went lusting after other gods, and bowed themselves to them. And they turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, for they had obeyed the commandments of the Lord. These did not do so. And when the Lord raised judges up for them, then the Lord was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For it grieved the Lord because of their groanings, caused by ones who oppressed them and troubled them. And when the judge was dead, they returned and made themselves more rotten than their fathers, in following other gods to serve them, and to bow down to them. And they did not cease from their own doings, nor from their stubborn ways. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he said, Because this people has transgressed my covenant which I commanded their fathers, and have not listened to my voice, I also will not from now on drive out before them any of the nations which Joshua left when he died, so that through them I may prove Israel, whether they will keep the way of the Lord to walk in it, as their fathers kept it, or not. And therefore the Lord left those nations without driving them out quickly, neither did he deliver them into the hand of Joshua. Judges chapter 3. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, as many as had not known all the wars of Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them war, at the least those who before knew nothing of it. 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites that lived in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon to the border of Hamath. And they were to prove Israel by them, to know whether they would listen to the commandments of the Lord, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. And the children of Israel lived amongst the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and Hivites, and Jebusites. And they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and forgot the Lord their God, and served Baalim and the groves. Therefore the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Chushu-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served Chusha-Rishathaim 8 years. And when the children of Israel cried to the Lord raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them, Othniel, the son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel, and went out to war. And the Lord delivered Chusha-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand. And his hand prevailed against Chushan-Rishathaim, and the land had rest 40 years. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord made Eglon, the king of Moab, strong against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek. And he went forth and struck Israel, and took the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. But when the children of Israel cried to the Lord raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, a Benjaminite, a left-handed man. And the children of Israel sent a present to Eglon, the king of Moab, by him. But Ehud made himself a dagger which had 2 edges, a cubit long, and he tied it under his clothing upon his right thigh. And he brought the present to Eglon, king of Moab, and Eglon was a very fat man. And when he had finished offering the present, he sent away the people who carried the present. But he himself turned again from the graven images that were by Gilgal, and said, I have a secret message for you, O king. And he said, Keep silence. And all that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came to him, and he was sitting in a summer room, which he had for himself alone. And Ehud said, I have a message from God to you. And he rose out of his seat, and Ehud put forth his left hand, and took the dagger from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly. And the shaft also went in after the blade. And the fat closed upon the blade, so that he could not draw the dagger out of his belly. And the dung came out. Then Ehud went forth through the porch, and shut the doors of the room upon him, and locked them. And when he had gone out, his sons came, and when they saw that, behold, the doors of the parlor were locked, they said, Surely he eases himself in his summer room. And they stayed until they were ashamed, and behold, he did not open the doors of the room. Therefore they took the key, and opened them, and behold, their lord had fallen down dead upon the earth. And Ehud escaped while they waited, and passed beyond the graven images, and escaped to Seirath. And when he had come, he blew a trumpet in the mountains of Ephraim, and the children of Israel went down with him from the mountain, and he before them. And he said to them, Follow after me, for the Lord has delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the fords of Jordan toward Moab, and did not allow a man to pass over. And they killed about 10,000 of the men of Moab at that time, all lusty and all men of might, and there did not escape a man. And so Moab was subdued under the hand of Israel that day, and the land had rest 80 years. And after him was Shamgar the son of Anath, who killed 600 men of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he also delivered Israel. We're reading from the book of Judges. We continue reading now, chapter 4. And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord, when Ehud was dead. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who ruled in Hazor. The captain of his host was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and he mightily oppressed down the children of Israel 20 years. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, judged Israel at that time, and she lived under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment, and she sent and called Barak the son of Abonoam out of Kedesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Has not the Lord God of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali, and the children of Zebulun? And I will draw Sisera to you, the captain of Jabin's army, at the river Kishon, together with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into your hands. And Barak said to her, If you go with me, then I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with you, but the journey that you take shall not be for your honor, for the Lord shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kedesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kedesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, had separated himself from the Kenites, and pitched his tent toward the plain of Zaanaim, which is by Kedesh. And they showed Sisera that Barak the son of Abonoam had gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles to the river of Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, Up, for this is the day in which the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone out before you? And so Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. And the Lord struck Sisera and all his army with the edge of the sword in front of Barak, so that Sisera got down from his chariot and ran away on his feet. But Barak pursued after the chariots and after the army to Harosheth of the Gentiles. And all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left. However, Sisera ran away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said to him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, do not fear. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a rug. And he said to her, I pray you, give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk and gave him a drink, and covered him. And again he said to her, Stand in the door of the tent, and when any man comes asking of you, saying, Is there a man here? You shall say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and put a hammer in her hand, and went softly to him, and struck the nail into his temples, and fastened it to the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary. And so he died. And behold, as Barak followed Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said to him, Come, and I will show you the man whom you seek. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So on that day God subdued Jabin, the king of the Canaanites, before the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel prospered, and prevailed against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, the king of Canaan. And we continue now reading Judges chapter 5. Then Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang on that day, saying, Praise the Lord for the avenging of Israel, when the people willingly offered themselves. Hear, O kings, give ear, O princes, I, even I, will sing unto the Lord. I will sing to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when thou didst go out of Seir, when thou didst march out of the field of Edom, the earth trembled and the heavens dropped, and the clouds also dropped water. The mountains melted from before the Lord, even that Sinai from before the Lord God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were empty, and the travelers walked through crooked ways. Those who lived in the villages disappeared. They disappeared in Israel until I, Deborah, arose, until I arose a mother in Israel. They chose new gods. Then war was in the gates. Was there a shield or a spear seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart is toward the governors of Israel, who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless the Lord. Speak, you who ride on asses, you who sit in judgment, and walk by the way. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they tell again the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous acts toward those who live in his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, and sing a song. Arise, Barak. Lead your captivity captive, you son of Abinoam. And then he made him who remains to have dominion over the nobles among the people. The Lord made me have dominion over the mighty. Out of Ephraim there was a root of them against Amalek, after you, Benjamin, among your people. Out of Machir came down governors, and out of Zebulun came they who handle the pen of the writer. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar and also Barak. He was sent on foot into the valley, and there were great thoughts of heart for the divisions of Reuben. Why did you stay amongst the sheepfolds to hear the bleating of the flocks? For in the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead stayed beyond Jordan. And why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore and remained in his creeks. Zebulun and Naphtali were a people who put their lives in danger of death in the high places of the field. The kings came and fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought in Taanach by the waters of Megiddo. They took no gain of money. They fought from heaven. The stars in their courses fought against Sisera. The river of Kishon swept them away, the ancient river, the river Kishon. O my soul, go marching on with strength. Then were the horse hoofs broken by means of the gallopings of their mighty ones. Curse Meroz, said the angel of the Lord. Curse the people of it bitterly, because they did not come to help the Lord, against the mighty. Blessed among the women shall Jael be, the wife of Heber the Kenite. She shall be blessed above women in the tent. He asked water, and she gave him milk. She brought forth butter in a lordly dish. She put her hand to the nail, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. And with the hammer she struck Sisera. She struck off his head when she had pierced and struck through his temples. He bowed down between her feet. He fell, he lay down. And when he bowed there, he fell down dead. The mother of Sisera looked out a window and cried through the lattice, Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why do the wheels of his chariot wait? Her wise ladies answered her, yea, she returned answer to herself. Have they not found success? Have they not divided the spoil? To every man a girl or two, to Sisera's prize of many colors, a prize of many colors of needlework, of many colors of needlework on both sides, fit for the necks of those that take the spoil. So let all thine enemies perish, O Lord, but let them that love him be like the sun when he goes forth in his might. And the land had rest for 40 years. Judges chapter 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of the hand of the Midianites, the children of Israel made themselves the dens which are in the mountains, and caves, and strongholds. And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they camped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth until you come to Gaza. And they left no food for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. Both they and their camels were without number. And they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was made very poor because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, who said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hands of the Egyptians, and out of the hands of all those who oppressed you, and drove them out from before you, and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you have not obeyed my voice. And there came an angel of the Lord, and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joaz, the Abiezrite. And his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress, to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him, and said to him, The Lord is with you, mighty man of power. And Gideon said to him, O my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us, and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And the Lord looked upon him, and said, Go in your might, and ye shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? And he said to him, O my Lord, with what shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, Surely I will be with you, and ye shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou dost talk with me. Do not depart from here, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my meal offering, and set it before thee. And he said, I will stay until you come again. And Gideon went in, and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. And he put the flesh in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out to him unto the oak, and presented it. And the angel of God said to him, Take the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there rose up fire out of the rock, and burned up the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of the Lord went away out of his sight. And when Gideon saw that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, Alas, O Lord God, because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said to him, Peace be unto you, do not fear, ye shall not die. And then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord, and called it Jehovah Shalom. It is yet in Ophrah of the Abiezrite unto this day. And the same night the Lord said to him, Take your father's young bull, even the second bull of 7 years, and throw down the altar of Baal which your father has, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord your God upon the top of this rock in an orderly manner. And take the second bull, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which you shall cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, and so he did it by night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove which was by it was cut down, and the second bull had been offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, Who has done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, has done this thing. Then the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, so that he may die, because he has cast down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the grove which was by it. And Joash said to all that stood against him, Will you plead for Baal? Will you save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death while it is still morning. If he is a god, let him plead for himself, because one has cast down his altar. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he has thrown down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together, and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came unto Gideon, and he blew a trumpet. And Abiezer was gathered after him, and he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also were gathered after him, and he sent messengers to Ashur, and to Zebulun, and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. And Gideon said to God, If thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor. And if the dew is on the fleece only, and dry upon all the earth, then I shall know that thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said. And it was so. For he rose up early in the morning, and gathered the fleece together, and wrung the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said to God, Let not thy anger be hot against me, and I will speak this once more. I pray thee, let me test but this once more with the fleece. Let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. The book of Judges, chapter 7. This is Family Bible Reading Fellowship. Then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him, rose up early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the army of the Midianites was on the north side of them by the hill of Morrow in the valley. And the Lord said to Gideon, The people who are with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel boast themselves against me, saying, My own hand has saved me. Now therefore speak in the ears of the people, saying, Whoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and go away early from Mount Gilead. And 22,000 of the people returned. And there remained 10,000. The Lord said to Gideon, The people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and I will separate them there for you. It shall be of whom I say to you, This shall go with you, the same shall go with you. And of whomever I say to you, This shall not go with you, the same shall not go. And so he brought down the people to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, Every one who laps the water with his tongue, like a dog laps, you shall set him by himself. Likewise every one who bows down upon his knees to drink. And the number of them who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men, but all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, I will save you by the 300 men who lapped, and will deliver the Midianites into your hand. And let all the other people go, each man to his place. And so the people took provisions in their hand and their trumpets. And he sent away all the rest of Israel, each man to his tent, and kept those 300 men. And the army of Midian was below him in the valley. And the same night the Lord said to him, Arise now, and go down to the army, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you fear to go down, go with Phurah, your servant. Go down to the army. and you shall hear what they shall say. And afterward your hand shall be strengthened to go down to the army. Then he went down with Phurah his servant to the outside of the armed men who were in the army, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along the valley like grasshoppers for multitude. And their camels were without number, like the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon had come, behold, there was a man who told a dream to his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came to a tent, and struck it, so that it fell, and overturned it, so that the tent lay long. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else except the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand God has delivered Midian and all the army. And when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the meaning of it, he worshipped. And he returned to the army of Israel and said, Arise, for the Lord has delivered the host of Midian into your hand. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and torches inside the pitchers. And he said to them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, as I do, so ye shall do. When I blow with a trumpet, I and all who are with me, then you blow the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And so Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came to the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, and they had but newly set the watch. And they blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers, and held the torches in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands to blow. And they cried, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And they stood each man in his place all around the camp, and all the army ran and cried and fled. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the army. And the army fled to Beth-shittah in Zererath, to the border of Abel-Maholah, unto Tabbath. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Ashur, and out of all of Manasseh, and ran after the Midianites. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all of Mount Ephraim, saying, Come down again against the Midianites, and take the waters to Beth-barah, and Jordan before them. And then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, and took the waters to Beth-barah and Jordan. Then they took 2 princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeeb. And they killed Oreb upon the rock Oreb, and they killed Zeeb at the winepress of Zeeb. And they pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon on the other side of the Jordan. Chapter 8, the book of Judges, chapter 8. And the men of Ephraim said unto him, Why have you served us this way, that you did not call us when you went to fight with the Midianites? And they rebuked him sharply. And he said to them, What have I done now in comparison to you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb. And what was I able to do in comparison to you? Then their anger toward them went away when he had said that. And Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint, yet pursuing them. And he said to the men of Succoth, I pray you, give loaves of bread to the people who follow me. For they are tired, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian. And the princes of Succoth said, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, so that we should give bread to your army? And Gideon said, Therefore, when the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went up from there to Penuel, and spoke to them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him like the men of Succoth had answered him. And he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their armies with them, about 15,000, all who were left of all the armies of the children of the east. For 120,000 men that drew sword fell. And Gideon went up by the way of those who lived in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and struck the army, for the army was secure. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he ran after them and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and destroyed all the army. And Gideon the son of Joash returned from battle before the sun was up. And he caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and asked of him. And he described to him the princes of Succoth, and the elders of it, 77 men. And he came to the men of Succoth, and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom you rebuked me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, so that we should give bread unto your men who are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. And he beat down the tower of Penuel, and killed the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, What kind of men were they who slew at Tabor? And they answered, As you are, so they were. Each one resembled the children of a king. And he said, They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you. And he said to Jether, his firstborn, Up and kill them. But the youth did not draw his sword, for he feared, because he was still a youth. Then said Zebah and Zalmunna, Rise and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments which were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, Rule over us, both you and your son's son also, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian. And Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. And Gideon said to them, I would desire a favor of you, that each man of you would give me the earrings of his prey. For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered, We will gladly give. And they spread a cloth, and each man threw the earrings of his prey in it. And the weight of the gold earrings which he asked for was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides ornaments and collars and purple clothing that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were around their camels' necks. And Gideon made an ephod of it, and put it in his city, in Ophrah. And all Israel went there lusting after it, which thing became a snare to Gideon and to his house. And so Midian was subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal the son of Joash went and lived in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons begotten of his body, for he had many wives. And his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. And Gideon the son of Joash died in a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And as soon as Gideon was dead, the children of Israel turned again, and went lusting after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their gods. And the children of Israel did not remember the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. Neither did they show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown to Israel. Chapter 9, Judges chapter 9. And Abimelech the son of Jerubbaal went to Shechem unto his mother's brothers, and he talked with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, I pray you, speak in the ears of all of the men of Shechem, which is better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. And his mother's brothers spoke of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem with all these words. And their hearts were bent toward Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-berith, with which Abimelech hired vain and light persons who followed him. And he went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 persons, upon one stone. But Jotham, the youngest of Jerubbaal, was still left, for he hid himself. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo, and they went forth and made Abimelech king, beside the plain of the pillar, which was in Shechem. And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood at the top of Mount Gerizim, and he lifted up his voice and cried and said to them, Listen to me, men of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. The trees went forth to anoint a king over them, and they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, Should I leave my fatness with which they honor God and man by me, and go to be promoted over the trees? And the trees said to the fig tree, You come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then the trees said to the vine, You come and reign over us. And the vine said to them, Should I leave my vine, which cheers God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then all the trees said to the bramble bush, You come and reign over us. And the bramble bush said to the trees, If you truly anoint me king over you, come put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and burn up the cedars of Lebanon. Now then, if you have done truly and sincerely in that you have made Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him according to what his hands deserve, for my father fought for you and much endangered his life, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian, and if you have risen up against my father's house today, and have killed his sons, 70 persons upon one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother, if you then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal and his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and burn up the men of Shechem and the house of Millo. And let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo and burn up Abimelech. And Jotham ran away and fled, and went to Beer, and lived there for fear of Abimelech his brother. When Abimelech had reigned 3 years over Israel, then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, so that the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid upon Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and upon the men of Shechem, who helped him in the killing of his brothers. And the men of Shechem set men lying in wait for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them. And it was told to Abimelech, and Gaal the son of Ebed came with his brothers, and went over to Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their confidence in him, and they went out into the fields, and gathered their vineyards, and trod the grapes, and made merry, and went into the house of their God, and ate and drank, and cursed Abimelech. And Gaal the son of Ebed said, Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is not he the son of Jerubbaal? And is not Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for why should we serve him? And I wish this people were under my hand, then I would remove Abimelech. And he said to Abimelech, Increase your army, and come out. And when Zebul the ruler of the city heard the words of Gaal the son of Ebed, his anger was kindled. And he sent messengers to Abimelech secretly, saying, Behold, Gaal the son of Ebed and his brothers have come to Shechem, and behold, they fortify the city against you. Now therefore come up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And in the morning, as soon as the sun is up, it shall be that you shall rise early and set upon the city. And behold, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you may do to them as you desire. And Abimelech rose up, and all the people who were with him by night, and they lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. And Gaal the son of Ebed went out and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. And Abimelech rose up, and the people who were with him, from lying in wait. And when Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, Behold, there are people coming down from the top of the mountains. And Zebul said to him, You are seeking the shadow of the mountains as if they were men. And Gaal spoke again and said, See, there are people coming down by the middle of the land, and another company coming along by the plain of Meoneim. Then Zebul said to him, Where is your mouth now, with which you said, Who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Is not this the people whom you have despised? I pray you, go out now and fight with them. And Gaal went out before the men of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. And Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him, and many were overthrown and wounded unto the entrance of the gate. And Abimelech lived at Arumah, and Zebul put Gaal and his brothers out, so that they should not live in Shechem. And on the next day the people went out into the field, and they told Abimelech. And he took the people and divided them into 3 companies, and lay in wait in the field. And they looked, and behold, the people came forth out of the city. And he rose up against them and struck them. And Abimelech and the company who were with him rushed forward and stood in the entrance of the gate of the city. And the 2 companies ran upon all the people who were in the field and killed them. And Abimelech fought against the city all that day. And he took the city and killed the people who were in it. And he beat down the city and sowed it with salt. And when all the men of the tower of Shechem heard, they entered into the stronghold of the house of the god Beerith. And it was told Abimelech that all the men of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. And Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the people that were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, and cut down a limb from the trees, and took it and laid it on his shoulder, and said to the people who were with him, What you have seen me do, hurry and do as I have done. And all the people likewise cut down a limb for themselves, and followed Abimelech. And they put them to the stronghold, and set the hold on fire upon them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died also, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and camped against Thebez, and took it. And there was a strong tower inside the city, and all the men and women and all those of the city fled there, and shut it up to themselves, and got up to the top of the tower. And Abimelech came to the tower, and fought against it, and went hard to the door of the tower to burn it with fire. And a certain woman threw a piece of a millstone upon Abimelech's head, and crushed his skull. Then he called hastily to the young man who was his armor-bearer, and said to him, Draw your sword and kill me, so that men may not say of me that a woman killed him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, each one of them left to go to his place. And so God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did to his father in killing his 70 brothers, and all the evil of the men of Shechem God sent back upon their heads, and upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal. Chapter 10. We're reading from the book of Judges, chapter 10. And after Abimelech there arose to defend Israel Tola, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar. And he lived in Shamar, in Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel 23 years, and died, and was buried in Shamir. And after him arose Jair, a Gileadite, and judged Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons who rode on 30 ass colts, and they had 30 cities, which are called Havor, Jari, unto this day, which are in the land of Gilead. And Jari died, and was buried in Kamon. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Balaam and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Sidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. And they left the Lord, and did not serve him. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And that year they troubled and oppressed the children of Israel, all the children of Israel who were on the other side Jordan, in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead, for 18 years. Moreover, the children of Ammon passed over Jordan to fight also against Judah and against Benjamin and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was very distressed. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, saying, We have sinned against thee, both because we have forsaken our God, and also have served Baalim. And the Lord said to the children of Israel, Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines? Also the Sidonians, and the Amalekites, and the Maonites oppressed you, and you cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet you have forsaken me, and served other gods, therefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry to the gods which you have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation. And the children of Israel said to the Lord, We have sinned. Do thou unto us whatever seems good unto thee. Only deliver us, we pray thee, this day. And they put away the strange gods from amongst them, and served the Lord, and his soul was moved by the misery of Israel. And then the children of Ammon were gathered together, and camped in Gilead. And the children of Israel assembled themselves together, and camped in Mizpeh. And the children and princes of Gilead said to one another, What man is there who will begin to fight against the children of Ammon? He shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Now Jephthah, the man from Gilead, was a mighty man of war, and he was the son of a harlot. And Gilead fathered Jephthah, and Gilead's wife bore him sons, and his wife's sons grew up, and they threw Jephthah out, and said to him, You shall not inherit in our father's house, for you are the son of a strange woman. Then Jephthah fled from his brothers, and lived in the land of Tob. And vain men were gathered to Jephthah, and went out with him. And in time the children of Ammon made war against Israel, and when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to bring Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, Come and be our captain, so that we may fight with the children of Ammon. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, Did you not hate me and throw me out of my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you are in trouble? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, Therefore we turn again to you now, so that you may go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the ones who live in Gilead. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, If you bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them before me, shall I be your head? And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, The Lord is witness between us, if we do not do so according to your words. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and captain over them. And Jephthah uttered all his words before the Lord in Mizpeh. And Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, What have you to do with me, that you have come against me to fight in my land? And the king of the children of Ammon answered to the messengers of Jephthah, Because Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt, from Arnon even to Jabbok into Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably. And Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon, and he said to him, Thus saith Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon. But when Israel came up from Egypt and walked through the wilderness to the Red Sea, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, I pray you, let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not listen. And in the same way they sent to the king of Moab, but he would not listen. And Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then they went along through the wilderness, and went around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came by the east side of the land of Moab, and pitched on the other side of Arnon. But they did not come within the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, We pray you, let us pass through your land to my place. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together, and pitched in Jahaz, and fought against Israel, And the Lord God of Israel delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. And so Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites who lived in that country. And they possessed all the borders of the Amorites, from Arnon even to Jabbok, and from the wilderness even to Jordan. So now the Lord God of Israel has put out the Amorites before his people Israel, and should you possess it, will you not possess that which Chemosh your God gives you to possess? So whomever the Lord our God shall drive out from before us, we will possess them. And now are you any better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel, or did he ever fight against them while Israel lived in Heshbon and its towns, and Aroer and its towns, and in all the cities which are along the borders of Arnon for 300 years? Why then did you not recover them in that time? Therefore I have not sinned against you, but you do me wrong to war against me. May the Lord the judge be judged this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. However, the king of the children of Ammon did not listen to the words of Jephthah, which he sent to them. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpeh of Gilead, and from Mizpeh of Gilead passed over to the children of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed a vow to the Lord, and said, If thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall come to pass that whatever comes forth out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, surely it shall belong to the Lord, or I will offer it up for a burnt offering. And so Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them. And the Lord delivered them into his hands. And he struck them from Aroer even until they came to Minnith, 20 cities, and to the plains of the vineyards, with a very great slaughter. So were the children of Ammon subdued before the children of Israel. And Jephthah came to Mizpeh unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances. And she was his only child. Besides her he had neither son nor daughter. And when he saw her, he tore his clothes, and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are one of those who trouble me, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot go back. And she said to him, My father, if you have opened your mouth to the Lord, do to me according to that which has come out of your mouth, because the Lord has taken vengeance for you upon your enemies, even the children of Ammon. And she said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, so that I may go up and down upon the mountains and weep for my virginity, I and my companions. And he said, Go. And he sent her away for 2 months. And she went with her companions and wept for her virginity upon the mountains. And at the end of 2 months she returned unto her father, who did to her according to his vow which he had vowed. And she knew no man. And it was a custom in Israel that the daughter of Israel went yearly to tell again of the daughter of Jephthah, the Gilead, 4 days in a year. Judges chapter 12. And the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward, and said to Jephthah, Why did you go over to fight against the children of Ammon, and did not call us to go with you? We will burn your house upon you with fire. And Jephthah said to them, My people and I were at great strife with the children of Ammon. And when I called you, you did not deliver me out of their hands. When I saw that you did not deliver me, I took my life in my hands and passed over against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into my hands. Why then have you come up against me to fight against me this day? Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead, and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck Ephraim, because they said, You Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gileadites took the passages of Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it happened that when one of those Ephraimites who had escaped said, Let me go over, the men of Gilead said to him, Are you an Ephraimite? If he said, No, they said to him, Now say Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not manage to pronounce it right. Then they took him and killed him at the passages of the Jordan. And there fell at that time 42,000 of the Ephraimites. And Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died, and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. And after him Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel, and he had 30 sons and 30 daughters, whom he sent abroad, and took in 30 daughters from abroad for his sons. And he judged Israel 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried at Bethlehem. And after him Elon, a Zebulonite, judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. And Elon the Zebulonite died and was buried in Ajalon, in the country of Zebulun. And after him Abdon the son of Hillel, a Parathonite, judged Israel. And he had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 ass colts. And he judged Israel 8 years. And Abdon the son of Hillel, the Parathonite, died and was buried in Parathon, and in the land of Ephraim, in the mount of the Amalekites. Judges chapter 13. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And his wife was barren and did not bear. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman, and said to her, Behold, now you are barren, and you do not bear, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore be careful, I pray you, and do not drink wine nor strong drink, and do not eat any unclean thing. For lo, ye shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came to me, and his face was like the face of an angel of God, very terrifying. But I did not ask him where he came from, neither did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. And now drink no wine nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing. For the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, and said, O my Lord, let the man of God whom thou didst send come again to us, and teach us what we shall do to the child that shall be born. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field, but Manoah her husband was not with her. And the woman hurried and ran and showed her husband, and said to him, Behold, the man has appeared to me, the one who came to me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said to him, Art thou the man who spoke to the woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and what shall we do to him? And the angel of the Lord turned to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat of anything that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine nor strong drink, nor any unclean thing. Let her do all that I commanded her. And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us keep thee until we have made a kid ready for thee. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Though you keep me, I will not eat of your bread. And if you will offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name, so that when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor? And the angel of the Lord said to him, Why do you ask after my name in this way, since it is wonderful? And so Manoah took a kid with a meal offering, and offered it upon a rock unto the Lord. And the angel did wonderfully. And Manoah and his wife looked on, for when the flame went up toward heaven from off the altar, the angel of the Lord went up in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on, and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did not appear any more to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, We shall surely die, because we have seen God. But his wife said unto him, If the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and a meal offering at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all these things, nor have told us such things as these at this time. And so the woman bore a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move on him at times in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Judges chapter 14. And Samson went down to Timnath, and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me for a wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your brothers, or among all my people, that you go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she pleases me very much. But his father and his mother did not know that it was from the Lord, that he was looking for an occasion against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines had the rule over Israel. Then Samson and his father and his mother went down to Timnath, and they came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore it as he would have torn a kid. He had nothing in his hand, but he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson very much. And after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the dead body of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey was in the dead body of the lion. And he took some of it in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and his mother, and he gave to them, and they ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the dead body of a lion. And so his father went down to the woman, and Samson made a feast there, for so the young men used to do. And when they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said to them, I will now put forth a riddle to you. If you can certainly tell it to me within 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 shirts and 30 changes of garments. But if you cannot tell it to me, then you shall give me 30 shirts and 30 changes of garments. And they said to him, Put forth your riddle, so that we may hear it. And he said to them, Out of the eater came forth food, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And in 3 days they could not tell what the riddle meant. And on the 7th day they said to Samson's wife, Lure your husband, so that he may tell the riddle to us, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you called us to take what we have? Is it not so? And Samson's wife wept before him, and said, You only hate me, and do not love me. You have put forth a riddle to the children of my people, and have not told it to me. And he said to her, Behold, I have not told it to my father, nor to my mother, and shall I tell it to you? And she wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted, and on the 7th day he told her, because she pressed hard upon him. And she told the riddle to the children of her people. And the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, and killed 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave changes of garments to them who told what the riddle meant. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had served as his friend. Chapter 15. We're reading from the book of Judges, chapter 15. But it came to pass within a little while, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid. And he said, I will go in to my wife into the room. But her father would not allow him to go in. And her father said, I truly thought that you utterly hated her, therefore I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she is? I pray you, take her instead of her. And Samson said concerning them, Now I shall be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do what is not pleasing to them. And Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put a firebrand in the middle between 2 tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing grain of the Philistines. and burned up both the shocks and also the standing grain, with the vineyards and the olives. Then the Philistines said, Who has done this? And they answered, Samson, the son of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. And Samson said to them, Though you have done this, yet I will be avenged of you, and after that I will stop. And he struck them hip and thigh with a great slaughter, and he went down and lived in the top of the rock Etam. Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah, and spread themselves in Lehi. And the men of Judah said, Why have you come up against us? And they answered, We have come up to bind Samson, to do to him as he has done to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went to the top of the rock Etam, and said to Samson, Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What is this that you have done to us? And he said to them, As they have done to me, so I have done to them. And they said to him, We have come to bind you, so that we may deliver you into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said to them, Swear unto me that you will not fall upon me yourselves. And they spoke to him, saying, No, but we will tie you up and deliver you into their hand. But surely we will not kill you. And they bound him with 2 cords, and brought him up from the rock. And when he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that had been burned with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and killed 1,000 men with it. And Samson said, With the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps. With the jaw of an ass I have killed 1,000 men. And when he had made an end of speaking, he threw away the jawbone out of his hand, and called the place Ramath Lehi. And he was very thirsty, and called upon the Lord, and said, Thou hast given this great deliverance into the hand of thy servant, and now shall I die forever, and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised? But God cut open a hollow place that was in the jaw, and water came out. And when he had drunk, his spirit came again, and he was revived. Therefore he called the name of it En-hakkore, which is in Lehi unto this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. Judges chapter 16. Then Samson went to Gaza, and he saw a harlot there, and went in to her. And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson has come here. And they surrounded him, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, In the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city, and the 2 posts, and went away with them, with the bar, and put them on his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron. And afterwards he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her, and said to her, Lure him, and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may prevail against him, so that we may tie him to afflict him. And each one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. And Delilah said to Samson, I pray you, tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you. And Samson said to her, If they bind me with 7 green cords that were never dried, then I shall be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green cords which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, staying with her in the room. And she said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he broke the cords, like a thread of tow is broken when it touches the fire. And so his strength was not known. And Delilah said to Samson, Behold, you have mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray you, with what you may be bound. And he said to her, If they bind me fast with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall be weak and be as another man. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him with them, and said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. And there were men lying in wait, staying in the room. and he broke them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said to Samson, You have mocked me until now, and told me lies. Tell me with what you may be bound. And he said to her, If you would weave the 7 locks of my head with the web. And she fastened it with the pin, and said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he woke out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam, and with the web. And she said to him, How can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and have not told me where your great strength lies. And when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, it came to pass that his soul was vexed unto death, so that he told her all his heart, and said to her, There is not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I will become weak, and be like any other man. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, Come this once, for he has now showed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her, and brought money in her hand, and she made him sleep upon her knees. And she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep, and said, I will go out as at other times before, and shake myself. And he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. But the Philistines took him, and put out his eyes, and brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass. And he ground in the prison house. However, the hair of his head began to grow again, after he had been shaven. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered themselves together in order to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon their god, and to rejoice, for they said, Our God has delivered Samson our enemy into our hand. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, and the destroyer of our country, who killed many of us. And when their hearts were merry, it came to pass that they said, Call for Samson, so that he may be made sport of for us. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made sport for them, and they set him between the pillars. And Samson said to the lad who led him by the hand, Allow me to feel the pillars upon which the house stands, so that I may lean upon them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. And there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women who watched, while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once, O God, so that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, on which it was held up, of the one with his right hand, and the other with his left. And Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might. And the house fell upon the lords, and upon all the people that were in it, so that the dead whom he killed at his death were more than they whom he killed in his whole life. And then his brothers and all the house of his father came down and took him, and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, in a burying place of Manoah his father. And he judged Israel 20 years. A reading from the book of Judges. This is Family Bible Reading Fellowship. We continue reading now chapter 17. And there was a man of Mount Ephraim, whose name was Micah. And he said to his mother, The 1,100 shekels of silver which were taken from you, about which you cursed and spoke of also in my ears, behold, the silver is with me. Behold, I took it. And his mother said, Be blessed of the Lord, my son. And when he had given back the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly given this silver to the Lord from my hand for my son, to make a graven image and a molten image. Now therefore I will give it to you. Yet he gave the money back to his mother. And his mother took the 200 shekels of silver, and gave them to the founder, who made of it an engraved image and a molten image. And they were in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had a house of gods, and made an ephod and a teraphim, and anointed one of his sons, who became his priest. And in those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite. And he stayed there, and the man went out of the city from Bethlehem, Judah, to live where he could find a place. And he came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he journeyed. And Micah said to him, Where do you come from? And he said to him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I go to live where I may find a place. And Micah said to him, Live with me, and be a father and a priest to me, and I will give you 10 shekels of silver by the year, and a suit of clothes, and your food. And so the Levite went in, and the Levite was content with the man, and the young man was to him as one of his sons. And Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, Now I know that the Lord will do me good, since I have a Levite as my priest. Chapter 18. We're reading from the book of Judges, chapter 18. Now in those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites looked for an inheritance for them to live in, for unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen to them among the tribes of Israel. And the children of Dan sent from their family 5 men from their borders, men of war, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it. And they said to them, Go search the land. And when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they stayed there. When they were at the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite, and they turned in there and said to him, Who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? And what have you here? And he said to them, This is how Micah deals with me, and he has hired me, and I am his priest. And they said to him, We pray you, ask counsel of God, so that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous. And the priest said to them, Go in peace. Your way in which you go is before the Lord. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were in it, how they lived carelessly, as the Sidonians do, quiet and secure. And there was no judge in the land who might put them to shame in anything, and they were far from the Sidonians, and had no business with any man. And they came to their brothers, to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brothers said to them, What do you say? And they said, Arise, so that we may go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you sit quietly? Do not be too lazy to go and enter to possess the land. When you go, you shall come to a people feeling safe, and to a large land, for God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything that is in the earth. And there went from there 600 men of the family of the Danites, with weapons of war, out of Zorah and out of Eshtaol, and they went up and pitched in Kirjath-Jearim in Judah. And therefore they call that place Mahanadan unto this day. Behold, it is behind Kirjath-Jearim. And they passed from there to Mount Ephraim, and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who went to spy out the country of Laish answered and said to their brothers, You know that there is in these houses an ephod, and a teraphim, and an engraved image, and a molten image. Now therefore consider what you have to do. And they turned in that way, and came to the house of the young man the Levite, unto the house of Micah, and greeted him. And the 600 men with their weapons of war, who were of the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. And the 5 men who went up to spy out the land went up and came in there, and took the engraved image, and the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. And the priest stood in the entrance of the gate, with the 600 men who were dressed with weapons of war. And these went into Micah's house, and brought out the carved image, the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. Then the priest said to them, What are you doing? And they said to him, Hold your peace, lay your hand upon your mouth, and go with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be a priest in the house of one man, or that you be a priest to a tribe and a family in Israel? And the priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and the teraphim and the carved image, and went into the midst of the people. And so they turned and departed, and put the little ones and the cattle, and the baggage before them. And when they were a good way away from the house of Micah, the men that were in the houses near Micah's house had gathered together, and had overtaken the children of Dan. And they cried to the children of Dan. And they turned their faces and said to Micah, What ails you, that you come with such a company? And he said, You have taken away my gods which I made, and the priest, and you've gone away. And what more do I have? And what is this that you say to me, What ails you? And the children of Dan said to him, Do not let your voice be heard amongst us, lest angry fellows run upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household. And the children of Dan went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priest whom he had, and came to Laish, to a people that were quiet and feeling safe. And they struck them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lies by Beth Rehob. They built a city and lived in it. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born to Israel. However, the name of the city was Laish at the first. And the children of Dan set up the engraved image, and Jonathan the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And they set up Micah's engraved image for themselves, the image which he made, all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. Judges chapter 19. We begin reading now chapter 19. And in those days, when there was no king in Israel, it came to pass that there was a certain Levite living on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played the harlot against him, and went away from him to her father's house, to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. And her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly to her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the girl saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, kept him, and he stayed with him 3 days. And so they ate and drank and stayed there. And on the 4th day, when they arose early in the morning, he rose up to leave. And the girl's father said to his son-in-law, Comfort your heart with a piece of bread, and afterward go your way. And they sat down and ate and drank, both of them together, for the girl's father had said to the man, Be content, I pray you, and stay all night, and let your heart be merry. And when the man rose up to leave, his father-in-law urged him, and therefore he stayed there again. And he rose early in the morning on the 5th day to leave. And the girl's father said, I pray you, comfort your heart. And they stayed till afternoon, and both of them ate. And when the man rose up to leave, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, Behold, now the day draws toward evening. I pray you, stay all night. Behold, the day grows to an end. Stay here, so that your heart may be merry. And tomorrow go early on your way, so that you may go home. But the man would not stay that night, but he rose up and left, and came over against Jebus, which is Jerusalem, and there were with him 2 saddle asses. His concubine also was with him, and when they were beside Jebus, the day was far gone. And the servant said to his master, Come, I pray you, and let us turn in unto this city of the Jebusites, and stay in it. And his master said to him, We will not turn aside here into the city of a stranger, who is not of the children of Israel. We will pass over to Gibeah. And he said to his servant, There we will stay all night, in Gibeah, or in Ramah. And they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down upon them, when they were by Gibeah, which is of Benjamin. And they turned aside there to go in and lodge in Gibeah. And when he went in, he sat down in a street of the city. For there was no man who took them into his house to stay the night. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at evening, who was also from Mount Ephraim. And he lived in Gibeah, but the men of the place were of Benjamin. And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a traveler in the streets of the city. And the old man said, Where do you go? And where do you come from? And he said to him, We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, to the side of Mount Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but now I am going to the house of the Lord. And there is no man who receives me into his house. Yet here is both straw and food for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me and for your handmaid, and for the young man who is with your servants. There is no lack of anything. And the old man said, Peace be with you. However, let all that is lacking lie upon me. Only do not stay in the street. And so he brought him into his house, and gave food to their asses, and they washed their feet, and ate and drank. Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, set upon the house all around, and beat at the door, and spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man that came to your house, so that we may know him. And the man, the master of the house, went out to them, and said to them, No, my brothers, I pray you do not do wickedly, since this man has come into my house. Do not do this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. I will bring them out now, and you humble them, and do with them what seems good to you. But do not do so vile a thing to this man. But the men would not listen to him. And so the man took his concubine, and brought her out to them, and they knew her, and abused her all night until morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then the woman came in the dawning of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house, where her lord was, until it was light. And her lord rose up in the morning, and opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, had fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. And he said to her, Up, and let us be going. But there was no answer. Then the man took her upon an ass, and the man rose up, and went to his place. And when he had come into his house, he took a knife, and laid hold on his concubine, and divided her with her bones into 12 pieces, and sent her into all the borders of Israel. And it was so that all that saw it said, There was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Think of it, take advice, and speak. Judges chapter 20. We're reading from the book of Judges, the 20th chapter. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, to the Lord in Mizpeh. And the chief of all the people of all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpeh. Then said the children of Israel, Tell us, how was this wickedness done? And the Levite, the husband of the woman who was slain, answered and said, I came into Gibeah of Benjamin to stay the night, my concubine and I. And the men of Gibeah rose against me, and set upon the house all around me by night, and thought to have killed me. And they have forced my concubine so that she is dead. And I took my concubine, and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. And all the people rose as one man, saying, We will not any of us go in to his tent, neither will any of us turn to his house. But now this shall be the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up by a lot against it, and we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to bring food for the people, so that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may do according to all the folly which they have done in Israel. And so all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, all together as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, What wickedness is this that is done among you? Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial, who are in Gibeah, so that we may put them to death, and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against the children of Israel. And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men who drew sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all these people there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Every one could sling stones at a hair's breadth, and not miss. And the men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men who drew sword. All these were men of war. And the children of Israel rose up and went up to the house of God, and asked counsel of God, and said, Which of us shall go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up first. And the children of Israel rose up early in the morning, and camped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin. And the men of Israel put themselves in order, ready to fight against them in Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah, and struck down to the ground 22,000 men of the Israelites that day. And the people and the men of Israel encouraged themselves, and set their battle in order again in the place where they put themselves in order the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and asked counsel from the Lord, saying, Shall I go up again to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? And the Lord says, Go up against them. And the children of Israel came near against the children of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and struck down to the ground again 18,000 men of the children of Israel. All these drew the sword. Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came into the house of God, and wept, and sat there before the Lord, and fasted that day until evening, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And the children of Israel inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the son of Aaron stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin my brother, or shall I stop? And the Lord said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. And Israel set men lying in wait all around Gibeah. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and put themselves in order against Gibeah, as at other times. And the children of Benjamin went out against the people, and were drawn away from the city. And they began to strike some of the people, and to kill, as at other times, in the highways, one of which goes up to the house of God, and the other to Gibeah in the field, about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, They are stricken down before us at the first. But the children of Israel said, Let us flee and draw them from the city to the highways. And all the men of Israel rose up out of their place, and put themselves in order at Baal Tamar. And the men lying in wait from Israel came forth out of their places, out of the meadows of Gibeah. And there came against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of all of Israel, and the battle was heavy. But they did not know that evil was near them. And the Lord struck Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed 25,100 men of the Benjaminites that day. All these drew the sword, and so the children of Benjamin saw that they were stricken. For the men of Israel gave place to the Benjaminites, because they trusted to the men lying in wait, which they had set beside Gibeah. And the liers in wait hurried and rushed upon Gibeah, and the men lying in wait marched along, and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now there was a set sign between the men of Israel and the men lying in wait, that they should make a great flame with smoke rising up out of the city. And when the men of Israel retired to the battle, Benjamin began to strike and kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons. For they said, Surely they are stricken down before us as in the first battle. But when the flame began to rise up out of the city with a pillar of smoke, the Benjaminites looked behind them, and behold, the flame of the city went up toward heaven. And when the men of Israel turned again, the men of Benjamin were amazed, for they saw that evil had come upon them. Therefore they turned before the men of Israel to the way of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and those who came out of the cities they destroyed in the midst of them. And so they enclosed the Benjaminites round about, and chased them, and trod them down with ease over against Gibeah toward the sunrise. And there fell from Benjamin 18,000. All these were men of war. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. And they gleaned of them in the highways 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them to Gittim, and killed 2,000 men of them. So that all who fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All of these were men of war. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness, to the rock Rimmon, and they stayed in the rock Rimmon 4 months. And the children of Israel turned again upon the children of Benjamin, and struck them with the edge of the sword, the men of every city as well as the beast, and all that came to hand. Also they set all the cities that they came to on fire. Judges chapter 21. Now the men of Israel had sworn in Mizpeh, saying, There shall not any of us give his daughter to Benjamin for a wife. And the people came to the house of God, and stayed there until evening before God, and lifted up their voice, and wept grievously, and said, O Lord God of Israel, why has this come to pass in Israel, that there should be today one tribe lacking in Israel? And on the next day the people rose early, and built there an altar, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And the children of Israel said, Who is there among all the tribes of Israel that did not come up with the congregation unto the Lord? For they had made a great oath concerning him who did not come up to the Lord to Mizpeh, saying, He shall surely be put to death. And the children of Israel repented themselves for Benjamin their brother, and said, There is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. What shall we do for wives for those who are left, since we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them of our daughters for wives? And they said, What one is there of the tribes of Israel that did not come up to Mizpeh, to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly, for the people were numbered, and behold, none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead were there. And the congregation sent there 12,000 men of the most valiant of them, and commanded them, saying, Go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the sword, with the women and the children. And this is a thing that you shall do. You shall utterly destroy every male and every woman who has lain with man. And they found amongst the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins, who had known no man by lying with any male. And they brought them to the camp to Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. And the whole congregation sent to speak to the children of Benjamin, who were in the rock Rimmon, and to call peaceably to them. And Benjamin came again at that time, and they gave them wives whom they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead. And yet so they were not enough for them. And the people repented themselves for Benjamin, because the Lord had made a break in the tribes of Israel. When the elders of the congregation said, What shall we do for wives for those who are left, since the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? They said, There must be an inheritance for those of Benjamin who have escaped, so that a tribe may not be destroyed out of Israel. However, we may not give them wives of our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn, saying, Cursed is he who gives a wife to Benjamin. Then they said, Behold, there is a feast of the Lord in Shiloh, early on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebonah. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, Go and lie in wait in the vineyards, and see and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances. Then you come out of the vineyards, and catch you a wife for every man from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be that when your fathers or your brothers come to us to complain, that we will say to them, Be favorable to them for our sakes, because we did not reserve each man a wife in the war. For if you did not give to them at that time, you should be guilty. And the children of Benjamin did so, and took wives according to their number, from those that danced, whom they caught. And they went and returned to their inheritance, and repaired the cities, and lived in them. And the children of Israel departed from there at that time, each man to his tribe and to his family, and they went out from there every man to his inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did right in his own eyes.